Ladies and gents, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Jay. Brand new season of Rearrange Rooms. What we're doing here is another rental property, very different from the flips that you guys are typically used to seeing on the channel. So we're gonna be going over all the ways in which we can do it very simply and very affordably, but also still have a really good product in the end. You're gonna see some updates to the wood siding that's in really poor condition. You're also gonna see some updates to the windows that we're gonna be doing. Once we replace all that, we're gonna go impact, we're gonna go stucco, but we're gonna have something that looks pretty good. So let's get right into it and show you what it looks like. Let's go. What we're looking at here is what it looks like when you got really shit siding. So let me give you an example of that. Right here, this is some wood that's fallen off. I mean, look. That right there is part of the problem when you don't have houses that you treat the way they're supposed to be treated. Another thing on top of that, so one is that this type of wood, this is just regular 2x4 pine. And the issue with that is that it's not treated. So anytime you have materials, especially wood materials, and they're outside, you always gotta make sure you go with something that's been pressure treated. Pressure treated is gonna help prevent against termites, gonna help prevent against wood rot. Another thing you got as well, these are like old jalousie windows. Problem with jalousie windows, these are like them old crank ones that you guys see sometimes. These are really poor when it comes to insulating your house. So if you have a bedroom or if you have any room that has these, the air escapes from them. And they're also not great against protection. They're super thin, they break really easily. They're a litany of problems. So we're gonna get this guy swapped out. We're also gonna get all the wood around the edges swapped out. What we're gonna do here is we're gonna be putting in some brand new framing. You guys can't see it right now, but on the interior, we're gonna be doing some new framing. When it comes to this, it's something I was just showing. If you look under the house, right now we have a poured concrete foundation. That concrete foundation, we have one there and another one about 8 feet away. What you're supposed to have is another one, like an intermediary, about 4 feet. And then above that, you're gonna have your rim joist that's gonna help hold the floors up. So part of the problem with this house is that it doesn't have the proper structure underneath it. So as a result, your floors are sinking, your floors are sagging. So we're gonna have to go into the house, jack it up, put some concrete blocks underneath it, and then support it with some rim joist that goes around. In addition to that, let's slide over a little bit, show you guys another thing. Now, with these old windows, now these are not jalousie windows, these are just like really old windows. This is the one that's on a pulley system. So what it is you have a counterweight. The counterweight drops down when you lift the window up, and then conversely, it does the opposite when you're trying to close it. Problem with this is one, like look at that. If somebody wants in this house, they're getting in. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to swap out all this stuff, rip this down, take down all this old trim work as well. We're gonna have to switch a lot of that to something pressure treated, or we're gonna have to do a stucco band. Stucco band being a piece of plastic on both sides, stuccoed in the middle, and then you essentially create the same frame that goes around the window right now. It's a lot of work to do, but when you have a house that looks like this, unless you do some of these things, it's gonna be riddled with problems from now till the end of time. Now on the back side of the house, and the reason why I want to show you this is because structurally the foundation for this wood deck is actually in pretty decent shape, even though it still looks pretty rough. So what we do have here, we have some spots that have been rotted out, so they're gonna need to be changed. What we're gonna do is we're gonna replace those, put some brand new 1-bys that are gonna go down, and that's gonna represent our floor. We're gonna put in some better screws because there's still some that are pretty loose, especially if you walk around. You may not see it, but you feel it definitely when you walk around. As far as what's happening on the house side, so this is our electrical meter and it comes down from our weather head. Now this is improperly done. My guess is that at some point somebody did something either without a permit because it's mad ghetto. So what we're gonna have to do, we're actually gonna have to call the local power company, disconnect the line. We're gonna have to run this up through the roof. Then we're gonna have to weatherproof around the roof. And after we weatherproof around the roof, then we're gonna call back the FPL or the local power company. They're gonna come back out and reconnect the line. The reason why this is done improperly is because I can literally reach up and I can grab this if I wanted to. That's a problem. Anytime you have any sort of electrical service, it's supposed to be, I believe, a minimum of 10 feet above any grade or any floor plane. So right now this is way too close to where it is so that we ain't trying to die. So we gotta make sure we get that corrected. Another thing that we're doing as well, we're taking these jail bars off the windows because now the neighborhood has changed. Again, it's been a lot more gentrified. This is something that was really necessary because this is a way for people to easily break into your house. But because this is now a pretty, not affluent, but definitely a more progressive neighborhood, we really don't need these anymore. Additionally, a lot of times when you have egress windows, you actually can't have this. This is not an egress window, but in instances where you do have egress, where someone needs to be able to get out in the event of a fire, you really can't have jail bars on the outside because someone could literally be burning inside their bedroom. So we gotta make sure we get that out. Another thing as well, you can't see it. Actually, let's swing around here. You could actually see it. So this is the water heater. Now, there's nothing wrong with the water heater per se, but again, it's old, it's antiquated. Best thing to do is to go tankless. This is only a two bedroom, one bathroom house. So tankless water heater is gonna be able to service the kitchen and the bathroom very easily. So we'll make sure we're gonna do that. Other than that, we got a lot of cleanup to do back here. Some of these old doors and whatnot, we're gonna be taking care of. And as well as this handrail. So we're gonna be putting up some new wood when we do the deck. We're also gonna take care of the handrail at the same time. So let's slide over here. I wanna show you guys what's happening in the back. So what's happening over on this portion of the house is we have a wall that's starting to deteriorate. We have a tree root that's growing underneath it, and it's starting to break up this exterior wall. So I don't know they're gonna be able to repair the wall all the way. So the only true thing you could do if you really wanna get it back to normal, you'd have to just take it down and then rebuild it. But it's a rental property. We're not really trying to do all that. We're trying to save money wherever we can. I'm not concerned with it falling on anybody because structurally I know it'll still hold up. It's more of an eyesore than anything else. So more than likely what we'll end up doing is we'll probably just restucco it. We'll paint it. We'll just make it look as good as we can. And then we'll probably plant some collusia along the back edge so that when it grows, you just don't even see the wall anymore. You just see like a really nice, beautiful hedge. Over here we have, I think, a fire pit. It looks like somebody once did. My guess is they took all of these pavers. So those pavers were for here. More than likely this tree root grew and it broke up all of this ground. And what I think they did is they just took it all after it was all broken up and essentially just made a little pit. So what we're gonna be doing is once we can get this leveled off, we're probably gonna put some mulch back here. Again, the roots are so strong that even if you try to lay those pavers down, if this tree continues to grow, they'll just never be able to lay flat. So I think some mulch to just kind of make it even, make it look presentable. And then we'll just take those pavers, donate them. So let me show you guys one more spot, which is just over here. So right now, this is our workout shed, I guess, is what you call this. This elliptical, all this stuff, we're gonna be getting rid of it. We're gonna tear down the tent. We're gonna be cleaning up all back here. It's just a lot of shit everywhere. So honestly, a bunch of it is really just cleanup. So once we get all of it cleaned up, we have a shed that's in the back, which is kind of nice. So you can store a lot of your tools in. But I do think for what's currently in there right now, there isn't a whole lot of stuff that's usable. We'll try to keep the stuff that we can. And other than that, everything else will be nothing but trash. Something to point out, because it is pretty nice. So we have a lot of pretty lush plants. It looks like they were purchased from the previous owner because they're still inside the pots. I still see some price tags and stickers on them. So we'll find a way to reuse it. We won't be throwing that stuff away. If you guys look up here, we actually have some really cool palm trees. I mean, they're stunning. So these tropical palms, as long as they get enough irrigation to them, they're gonna actually do really well. The problem right now is there is no irrigation. So we're gonna need to put in a system so that they can continue to grow. And you also can't see them because there's this gangly tree in the way. So another thing that we're gonna be doing, we're gonna rip down all this stuff. Anything hideous is gonna go. Anything beautiful is gonna be kept. So one thing that we're gonna be doing after we do that as well, we're also gonna make sure we clear out all this groundwork because right now it's nothing but a bunch of weeds and just mess. So once we get it nice and smoothed out, we're not gonna do any kind of grass. If anything, we're gonna do something else that's very low maintenance. Again, this is a rental property and you cannot rely on your renters to cut grass because who would do that anyway? It's not their job to do it. It's really on you. So what we're gonna do back here is yet to be figured out, but in the next episode, we'll probably have a better idea what it's gonna be. Just have to stay tuned and see. Let me show you why this house is just riddled with problems, in addition to all the stuff that I've already showed you so far. So if you look up why this is done the way it's done, I have no explanation for it. So you're looking at a giant 2x8 piece of wood that's just been fastened to the outside wall. You would never do something like that. I honestly think that this was probably used somewhere else because see how the bottom is not painted? So more than likely they just took it off of, who knows, maybe some other part of the house to cover up what I'm guessing is a hole on the other side. Now, if you look at the way that they did the siding, you would just never do it like this. So this is another piece of siding that's sticking out on top of another piece that's directly above it. The problem with that is that when you do siding, you have to treat it the same way you treat a roof. So you have your bottom layer and it goes behind the layer on top of it. And the reason why that happens is because when water starts to come down, you want the water to be trickling from the top down, 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 down. Well, if you flip it the other way, water's gonna end up into that seam and it's eventually gonna rot out that whole bottom piece. The fact that it's in the condition that it's in right now just means that this was done probably in the last year, because trust me, this is going to fail guaranteed. So we're gonna have to rip down this siding on this wall because it's garbage. Every piece of it is garbage. I could actually see inside the room in this corner. And look how loose it is. Like, look at all these boards. Jeez. I bet I can probably pull it. Like, look at this. There's nothing really holding any of this stuff to the house. So in addition to the fact that it's really poor condition, it's not fastened very well. So once we rip it down, put some new plywood in, it'll look a lot better. Structurally, it'll be a lot better. Old jalousie windows, just like on the opposite side, that's gotta go too. Incredibly inefficient. We'll go impact on this side, and that's gonna help with the heat, as far as like having less heat gain coming into the room because we're gonna have a UV layer on the outside. It's also gonna help insulate the room because that means that you're gonna have better AC, and it's also gonna protect against hurricanes. So it's kind of trifold. As far as what's happening up here, we have some loose deck boards, just like on the other side. We're gonna have to put some proper screws to hold them in place. We have some updates to do. The fascia actually, of all things, looks to be pretty solid, shockingly. But I think it's because the roof itself looks like it's been done in the last like 5 to 10 years. So my guess is this is probably a reason for that. Lastly, we have the front door. It's in okay condition. It's probably best to just kind of sand it down, paint it, just give it a different look. But I do think with all those changes, the front here is gonna look a lot better. Something that I absolutely despise is useless decoration. That's this. Look at this. These are shutters that have no purpose. And whenever you have something with no purpose, to me, again, I went to school for modernism, and when it comes to stuff like this, any kind of useless decoration, get rid of it. So one thing I'm gonna be doing once I strip all this back, we're gonna have to cover up the holes because essentially this has all been screwed into. Actually, no, I don't. We're doing stucco, so never mind. We're actually just gonna be caulking over it. Once we do that, we're gonna have our building paper. The building paper is gonna be what's used before the stucco goes on. So we're gonna have building paper, some metal that goes on top of that, and then the stucco is gonna be adhered to that metal. So you're gonna have a nice, strong surface. And then this will be nothing. We'll just essentially get rid of it. This is also how you know people have no idea what they're doing. So you actually, right here, have a piece of flashing. This flashing detail, I would think was kind of okay if it was tucked up behind the wood. The problem is they didn't do that. So what you have here is just what I mentioned before in the last space. You have a piece of metal and you have wood, and the piece of metal is in front of the piece of wood. So what ends up happening, over time, it rains, water runs down the wall, and it gets caught inside that crease. That crease over time will open, it'll get wet, it'll get dry. It'll open, it'll get wet, it'll get dry. Open, and you actually can start to see it now. It's loose. So it's really serving no purpose at all. And why they would even put a piece of flashing when really that's for the top of the roof, down here on the bottom, doesn't even make sense even of itself. So we're gonna be getting rid of that. You guys can see we have this old like trellis piece of wood down here, god awful, all of it. So what we're gonna be doing, we're gonna actually close that up. We're gonna have a hole just large enough to allow for some ventilation because this is a crawl space. So with crawl space, you have to make sure you have enough air movement underneath it to keep your joists nice and cool so that too much moisture doesn't build up. So once we get that done, we close off the rest of it, clean up all this horrible plants that are in the front here, get rid of all the weeds, get rid of all the dirt, get rid of these god awful pavers, because why? I mean, they're not even straight. They're in every different direction. So once we get that cleaned up, we put something down that looks much nicer, the front of this house is gonna look 10 times better. So just stay tuned. Okay, ladies and gents, that wraps up another episode. Make sure y'all tune in next week. We're gonna have a lot more stuff done to the exterior. First thing is first, we're gonna have to clear all this stuff because it just looks like a lot of crap everywhere. So we're gonna start there. We're gonna all of it cleared. We're gonna also do some deck work because I think the deck is in really poor condition. And the last thing I need is any one of my contractors getting hurt. So we're gonna make sure we get that cleaned up as well. We're also gonna get a lot of that trash done in the back where you saw where we had the shed as well as some of those pavers in the back there. So I think for a day one, for the next episode, a lot of demo work, a lot of cleanup, but it's also gonna help because a lot of times having a nice solid foundation is where you gotta start. So if you guys haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video for more content just like this. So until next time, catch you on the next one.